I think it's very easy to look at these things and say, oh, hey, this is the deep state trying to murder Trump. Thomas Crooks, there's all this information on him that isn't public, so he obviously must be working with the government. Because Charlie Kirk was potentially critical of Israel, they, did a hit on him. And I don't think any of these things, I shouldn't say it's impossible that they're true, but I think it's very unlikely that they're true. The thing that I think is there are really two commonalities that I find with these situations regarding Trump's. Let's just focus on Trump. Trump's assassination attempts, violence around these situations. One, I think there's a very understandable, not justified by any means, but there's a very understandable anger coming from a lot of Americans, especially young ones, who are dissatisfied with like I said previously, not only dissatisfied with this administration, but I mean, there's been a certain side of the aisle that has been fed this information that we are literally witnessing Hitler, that Trump is literally Hitler, that he is literally a fascist. Now, I think if you were to look at Trump and his policies, he is far more a communist akin to socialism than a fascist. The trademark of fascism, from what I understand, is like utilizing industries to exert power on others. And it doesn't really seem like that's the case. Everything that I've seen out of the Trump administration is a force of government, an increase of government. And that is far different from fascism. That is more akin to communism, socialism especially, when you give power to the state in order to equalize things. And, it has the same result as what happens when you institute socialism. But regardless, when there is a certain side of the aisle that is fed this information that Trump is Hitler, Trump is the new Hitler, whatever. And this is over a decade. This messaging has, probably persisted today, especially with the stuff in Iran. I'm sure there's people who are saying that, but I think this is just a recipe for disaster. Of course, you were going to find at least a handful of people who are going to take violent means, take matters into their own hands, and do violent things. Now, I think it's very easy. I've talked about this before in the podcast. I think it's very easy for people when they're, theorizing about what happens, quote unquote conspiracy theories around these events, is very easy to start from the conclusion and work your way back. I think a lot of times people will say, "Oh, Trump is being shot at. There are attempts on his life," and then they work backward from that. And they think, "Oh, why would people want this? Oh, because of X, Y, Z," and then so that means that the deep state's involved. That means that these actors are tied to the deep state, etc. And I don't really buy any of this. I've never really bought into this. I've never bought into the idea that Thomas Crooks is, or I should say, was this government person. I should say, that he was a psyop, or that the government manipulated him into doing this. I think with the Butler assassination attempt, probably the strongest case to be had that was something of a deep state thing was that Biden allowed Trump less Secret Servicemen. He actually didn't. RFK, he didn't allow any Secret Servicemen. But again, I don't think that's intentional. I don't think that's intentional in terms of having the outcome of an assassination attempt. I think it's more so just, hey, this is my political enemy. Why would I give him more protection than needs to be? And, fair enough. Not even fair enough, but like that's just that's how it works, right? Like if you're the guy in office, or Biden was a corpse, so the people who were running the government at that point, they obviously don't want that to happen. And there's something to be said about it's really surprising at this point that Trump hasn't hired private security. I don't know if there's something with his position where he's not allowed to do that or whatnot, but like even at the Butler thing, like this, you're telling me that this guy who's very wealthy is not able to hire private security that would probably be better than the Secret Service, or at the very least, how the Secret Service has handled these circumstances. Like it seems pretty obvious to me that it would be pretty easy to find that. I guess this leads into my second point on what I surmise what is actually going on, which I think ultimately at the end of the day, this is purely government incompetence. I think when people go down these rabbit holes of conspiracies, they are giving the government way too much credit. Let's look at what's happened with DEI. And before I get into this is not me saying that I think women or people of color or whatever minority group is targeted, or I should say an attempt to be bolstered in these positions. I don't think that they are automatically less than otherwise because of those traits. That is not what I'm saying at all. I don't believe that. That being said, I think when you have initiatives for hiring people into these positions that stem not from ability, but from a certain profile that is not a part of ability, right? That is a recipe for disaster. If you have that culture that is bred over time, over a decade, at the very least from the Biden era, probably before that. This probably started in the Obama era for sure, to some extent at least. Of course, you're going to have less incompetence. Like if I had a business, let's take it from the other side of the aisle. Let's say I'm a racist, and people have called me that before. Truly a racist. I know I make jokes, but like a true racist. Like I truly looked at people who looked and were different from me, and I said that they're less than me, or I felt that they were less than me. Let's say I was really that person, and I had a business, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start this business, but I'm only going to hire white men. And it doesn't, like, if I have candidates that are other than that may be more qualified, I'm just going to ignore that because I'm a racist, I want purity, whatever, XYZ. And somebody's going to clip that up for sure. And, I decide to operate my business that way. My business is not going to operate as well as someone who does the opposite of that, who's like, okay, I'm not going to look at your orientation, how you identify yourself, racially, religious, whatever. I'm going to purely judge you based on your skill level, your ability. And that business is going to succeed far more than my business, undoubtedly. Yeah, I think that's just another example of why free market capitalism is just better on face value than like this system, right? But anyways, my point is when you have all these government institutions operating off of that, you're obviously going to breed incompetence. You're going to breed a lack of skill. Because when you institute something like DEI, you throw that out the window because of the example I just gave. And on top of that, you have to think about where the government is at now, where the popularity is at now. People are not, jumping on the boat to go fight in Iran, right? Like the whole, at least in my generation, the whole culture is, being worried about having a draft and being like, I'm going to dodge the draft. And I probably would too. Like, there's no incentive for people to join these government programs. Like even like cops, like nobody wants to be a cop. Like nobody wants to be in these positions because they all recognize how fucking corrupt, not only corrupt, but like how just inadequate these government agencies are. So I think it's way more likely that we have bred, or that I shouldn't say we, that the government has bred this culture of incompetence. And we can see this time and time again through these assassination attempts. Like I said, I'm going to this fairly blind, and I was listening to a little bit of the Dave Smith episode. I decided not to listen to the whole thing, just a little bit of it before I started. But from what I understand, based on that, it was pretty easy for him to be in that situation. There were not a lot of guardrails set in place. And people can think, I think people will look at that and say, oh, well, the government intentionally did that, or the Secret Service intentionally did that in order to have a hit on Trump. Incompetence, Democratic Party. No, I don't believe that's the case. I mean, is it potentially a result of the Democratic Party with the DEI stuff? You can maybe argue that. I think just pinning it all on the Democratic Party is ridiculous. Because what has the Trump administration really done to alleviate that? I mean, I know they've taken out DEI in like the military, but like, it's one thing to declare that they're going to do it. It's another thing to like be like, okay, we're going to let people go and then we're going to hire new people. Like, I just don't believe that that is actually happening. I think it's just a culture that's been bred from this. But look, I think this is the obvious thing, is that they're just incompetent. And I think the reason why this guy was able to get to this point, that happened the other night with the correspondence dinner, and I think the reason that Thomas Crooks was able to get his shot off was because the Secret Service didn't intentionally do these things, but they just suck at their jobs. I think that's it's like Occam's razor, right? Like, I just think that's the most likely outcome. Like, I think the simplest outcome is the most likely. Like, I'm sorry, I don't see a lot of evidence. And it would come out, right? Like, in this day and age of the internet, like, I feel like there would be some semblance of, like, hardcore evidence that these things are part of a bigger plot. But I just don't believe that. And also, like, why would the deep state want to, pop Trump now? I feel like this is the event that has proved my theory, beyond a reasonable doubt, more than anything. Is, like, why would the deep state work against Trump at this point? Maybe he's not popular, so that could be a reason. Maybe that's a possibility. But he's doing everything that the deep state wants. He is pushing this war in Iran that Israel's been pushing for decades, and now they're finally getting it. Like, what reason is there to cap Trump at this point? To kill him? There's no reason. There's no reason for the deep state to do that. So, I mean, I think at the end I think this just goes to show that this is government incompetence.